episode 6, Word of the Weiss, and today I am just going to get straight into it because, oh my god, there is a ton to talk about, and I guess that is the price I pay for taking such a long time in between episodes. But I want to say right away, I think we are officially past the honeymoon phase of the podcast. And what I mean by that, I'll explain really quick, is I feel like at this point, 6 episodes in, I've established who I am, what this podcast is, what it's about, why I'm doing it, how I want to do it, and that's changing every week. I mean, I'm obviously still changing things, adjusting things, trying to figure out, how I do best, but the point is, now I'm ready to just get straight into things and talk about what needs to be talked about, because there is a ton. So far, 6 episodes in, we've done extensive talk on the NBA, the NFL, Marvel, DC, college football, college basketball, the Gators, pretty much everything I want this to be about. So, that said, I have a hypothetical situation to pose to you to start this episode. So, imagine there is a concert going on a year from now, and it is your favorite artist. I mean, if you could pick to go to any artist's concert ever, this is that artist. And I have fantastic backstage tickets for you. It's a year from now, and it's in Vegas, let's say. Anywhere that isn't close to home, but let's say Vegas. And I tell you, and it's sold out. You cannot get a ticket. You missed the window. It is completely sold out. I am your only way of getting a ticket because I have one. And I'm offering it to you. And I say, a year from now, I'll sell you it for $500. And then you can go to this concert because you clearly love this artist way more than I do. And you say, deal, thank you, absolutely. Okay. So, because you're so excited, you go out and you buy your hotel. A year in advance. You buy your hotel. You buy your airfare. You get a babysitter for the kids. You take off work. And all of these things are non-refundable. Non-refundable hotel, non-refundable plane ticket, not just everything. You prepare your life, essentially, to go to Vegas this week in 2024. I don't even know what year it is. Because I tell you I will sell you this ticket to this concert. And you want to go that badly. Okay. Fast forward a year from now. The concert is a week away. And you say, I packed my bags. I got my plane ticket. I got my hotel. I did everything I had to do. I am ready. I'm excited. Here's $500. And I say, So what you're telling me is you have an irrefundable hotel, an irrefundable, non-refundable plane ticket. You dedicated basically your entire life for this week to go to this concert. Okay. $5,000. That's how much the ticket is now. Now, does that make me an asshole? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does. But what's your other option? You've already spent all the money to go to Vegas and, for this specific purpose. You want this concert more than anything, clearly. And you have no other way of getting a ticket. What's stopping me from saying $5,000 now? The New York Jets have signed Alan Lazard. They have hired Nathaniel Hackett. Derek Carr is no longer available. Jimmy Garoppolo is no longer available. The New York Jets are stuck, and the Packers are toying with them. The Packers are telling them, you want to go to this concert. You want Aaron Rodgers. Give me your first round pick this year. Give me the $5,000. Give me your first round pick. What pick do the Jets have in this year's draft? I know it's not. The New York Jets have the I should know this off the top of my head. See, this is why you always prepare ahead of time. They have the 13th pick. So now the Packers are saying, give us that pick. Give us maybe another first. Give us a second. Give us all this stuff because you have no other choice. Because you already bought your hotel and you already dedicated your entire life for this next season to Aaron Rodgers. Because now at this point, what you've done is you have left yourselves the options of Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, and Joe Flacco. Because you are a poorly ran franchise and you put all your eggs in Aaron Rodgers' basket, and the Packers have historically fantastically run franchise. So do you really sit there and think, oh, the New York Jets have the Green Bay Packers by the ropes. The Packers have no leverage. The Jets have all the The Jets are the Jets, and the Packers are the Packers, which means the Packers are toying with the Jets. They know they have no option but to give them whatever they want for Aaron Rodgers. Now, what I think is going to happen is I don't think the Jets are going to budge and give them that 13th pick this year. I think they're going to wait till after the draft. It then going to end up giving the Packers a good haul, just not including that pick in this year's draft. And then I think the Jets are going to use that pick for an offensive lineman to give Aaron Rodgers some much needed help up front. But I think that's what's going on right now, and that's why we haven't seen a deal yet. Because Aaron Rodgers stupidly went on McAfee and said, I want to play for the Jets, which basically left the Jets screwed. Because now the Packers know that. Let me put it this way. The New York Jets options let me start with the Packers. The Packers options at quarterback next season. Their starting quarterback week 1, if Aaron Rodgers is traded, is going to be Jordan Love. Their starting quarterback week 1, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't get traded, is Jordan Love. The Jets starting quarterback week 1, if Aaron Rodgers is traded, is Aaron Rodgers. Their starting quarterback, I don't even need to say it, the kid that they've already publicly humiliated multiple times, given essentially no chance to really improve with an improved roster. And I'm not saying Zach Wilson is great. I mean, I also think he's not good. But the point is that you have no option B after Aaron Rodgers. And that is obvious. I don't understand where people are getting that the Jets have any leverage in the situation at all. The Packers' reason that they need to trade Aaron Rodgers is so he's not a cancer in their locker room. He doesn't cause turmoil in the organization. What does that even mean? What is that? The Jets, if they do not make this move, are starting Zach Wilson. That is not even leverage. So I do think he's going to end up a Jet. I do think the Jets are going to have to give up a haul for... I mean, remember, Carson Wentz went for a first-round pick 2 years ago. The Jets are going to have to give up a haul. It's going to be way too much, but they don't have any other option. They're going to probably finish third in the division next season. Maybe second. But it's just... They should have went after Lamar. They should have, at the very least, signed Jimmy G or Baker for a bridge year. It then tried to figure out, solidify the position next offseason. But they threw all of those options out the window, put all their eggs in Aaron Rodgers' basket. And now they're going to be a 10, 11 win team with Aaron Rodgers. Not really much of a chance to make any noise in the postseason with the Chiefs and the Bengals and the Bills. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is coming off probably the worst season of his career, and he's not getting younger. And the moment you think, but Aaron Rodgers last year in Green Bay was similar to Brady's last year in New England, The moment that's the number one defense that comes in your head, it's when you know you're screwed. When you start comparing guys to Tom Brady as your baseline for what to expect from them, that's when you know you're screwed. So that's where I fall right now. That's what we know about the Aaron Rodgers situation. He'll be a Jet by week 1. They'll give up way too much for him after the draft, unless they break before the draft and end up sending the 13th pick, which I don't think they're that sorry of an organization. I cannot imagine them doing that. But oh, also one thing because it's been so long since we've done an episode, like this was the last episode 5 was before McAfee. I do want to. He went on. Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee and said he went into his darkness retreat 90% sure he'd retire. No, he did not. He was never going to retire. And if I'm not mistaken, the reason he said he decided to unretire was because he found out the Packers were shopping him since he left the retreat. And if that's the case, that would make you lean closer to retiring, I would think. So he was never. Aaron Rodgers retiring was never an option. Aaron Rodgers returning to the Packers was never an option. And then by going on McAfee and telling him that he wants to be a Jet, he took every other team out of the equation, and now the Packers have all the leverage in the world against the Jets. So that's where I spent too many things to talk about today, and this is not going to be an hour and a half episode. So I'm going to move on. And speaking of quarterbacks who aren't going to get moved aren't going to move teams until after the NFL draft. Look, Lamar Jackson, it's a weird situation. It definitely is. I've never seen anything like it in my short, span of being really into the NFL. It's weird that he doesn't have an agent. The things he's tweeting out are strange. His website, I don't know if you guys saw, but it's really weird. It says like Lamar Jackson, how many Pro Bowls he has, that he's an MVP. It's like a resume on a. It's just really weird, but because it's strange and unprecedented and just weird, doesn't mean it's complicated. And I think that's where people sort of, merge the two together. And it's really not that complicated of a situation. So right now, under the non-exclusive tag, how it works is any team that signs Lamar Jackson, and he's free to go and talk to teams right now. Whenever he wants, he can go and have conversations with teams as a free agent. But any team that signs him automatically sends, when they sign him, their next 2 first-round picks to the Ravens. So, and that is why nobody's going to sign him before the draft. Because, think about it. If you're this could go for any team, but I'll just use the Colts, for example. If you're the Colts and you sign Lamar now, or any time in the past, or any time before the draft, you have to send the Ravens the 4th pick in this year's draft, and then next year's pick. And next year's pick, if you have Lamar Jackson, you're going to win the division. So it's going to be a good pick. Or it's going to be a bad pick in the draft. So why would you sign Lamar now when you could wait till after the draft, use your 4th pick on Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, or trade down and get assets for it, whatever, and then sign Lamar after the draft and give up the next 2 first-round picks, meaning next year's and the year after, when you know those aren't going to be good picks, high-value picks, definitely not as high value as the 4th pick, because you're going to be good with Lamar. And that goes for every team with a decently high pick in this year's draft. Why would you sign Lamar before the draft? That's why nobody's done it yet. It's not because the league doesn't want Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is an undebatable top 10 guy. Undebatable. I think he's a borderline top 5 guy. The only quarterbacks that I would say 100% they're better than Lamar Jackson right now are Mahomes, Allen, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, but that's about it. And whether you agree or disagree with that, you can only name 2 or 3 more guys in that conversation anyway. So he's a top 10 guy at worst. So it's not that the league just look at the market. Nobody wants Lamar Jackson. 25 teams want Lamar Jackson. Well, maybe closer to 20. But the point is, it's not because nobody wants him. It's because nobody wants him before the draft. Because nobody wants to trade their pick in this year's draft. And that's the situation. It's not super complicated. Now, where it does get complicated is the fact that he's asking for a fully guaranteed deal. So after the draft, is our teams going to finally be willing to, sort of negotiate with that and try to bring him down from it? That's obviously where an agent would help. So that's kind of, where that situation is right now and after the draft. But as far as do teams want him, the answer is yes. It's just they don't want to trade their pick in this year's draft, and that's why he will not be moved before the draft. And one of the teams rumored a bit to be in the Lamar sweepstakes is my New England Patriots. And I know what you're thinking. Zach, what are you talking about? You've Mac. Mac is great. Mac is a Pro Bowler. Mac made the playoffs as a rookie. Mac's the baby goat. I know, guys. But when Meek Mill is talking to Robert Kraft, saying Lamar Jackson wants to be a Patriot, and Bill Belichick is, 30 wins away, 35 wins away from becoming the winningest coach ever, and Bill Belichick isn't going to coach forever. Sometimes you got to sacrifice the long term for the short term, and I wouldn't be too opposed to some Lamar Jackson in my life. Did sign Mike Gesicki and Juju Smith-Schuster, which I think are great signings. I still think you need that number 1 guy. I think Juju's a very qualified number 2. I think Gesicki and Hunter Henry are going to be good tight ends for this team. Sneaky signing is Juju for the 33, which is the same Jacoby Myers was signed by the Raiders for. And what's sneaky about that is you think that Raiders game was a inside job, Jacoby Myers to Chandler Jones at the end of that game? I wouldn't count it out. I would not count it out. So anyway, yeah, no team's going to trade for Lamar before the draft. Him and Aaron Rodgers, they're both going to be moved, or the Jets are going to trade for Aaron Rodgers sometime between the end of the draft, or the day after the draft is over, and the beginning of the season, or the beginning of OTAs. And yeah, Lamar Jackson is going to play week 1. He is not going to play for the Ravens. I honestly could not give you my best guess of what team that will be for right now. I think it could be a number of different teams, but it's going to be a team that is willing to trade their next 2 first-round picks to the Ravens. And it is not going to be one in this year's draft. So let's transition over to the NBA. Because, man, is there a lot to talk about in the NBA. One of the biggest discussions going on right now in the league is Jokic versus Embiid. Who's the MVP? And this is where I fall on that. People's number 1 argument for Embiid, and this is one I've been hearing everywhere lately, is they're close offensively. They provide similar offensive production, but Embiid is so much better defensively. So it clearly has to be Embiid. I'm here to tell you that Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid are not close offensively. Joel Embiid is nowhere near the type of offensive player that Nikola Jokic is. And the way you can tell this is as simple as watching the games. The numbers on the stat sheet will tell you that because Joel Embiid averages 7 more points a game than Jokic, he's a better offensive player. But what Jokic does for his team, you can't put it into words unless you watch it happen. I can't fathom somebody watching the Nuggets play and then watching the Sixers play and genuinely believing Embiid is a better offensive player, does more for his team offensively, or even saying is pretty much the same, is close to the same. I can't fathom that. Is Embiid a better defender than Jokic? Of course. Of course. Jokic he's not the worst defensive big in the league, like people are saying. He's not good, but he's serviceable, especially if you have a guy like Aaron Gordon next to him who can really defend. That obviously helps a lot. Having Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. on the court at the same time does cause some trouble defensively. I think in the playoffs, people are going to, same thing they did in the bubble. They're going to pick apart MPJ and Jokic and pick and rolls. But point is, they are not close. Embiid and Jokic are not close offensively. Jokic makes his team genuinely, people say he makes his teammates better. He makes his teams better. They throw that around like it's just an easy thing. Like, the guys in the league that genuinely make all of their teammates better than they are when they're not playing with them are Jokic. I'd say Sabonis is in there. I'd say LeBron. I don't know who else you could definitively say when he is on the court, his teammates all play better. I don't know how many people you could say that for. You can't say it for Embiid. Now, individually, Embiid is an incredible talent, but the Nuggets are Jokic offensively. That is their entire identity. I saw a stat the other day, and I'm not going to get it exactly correct, but it was very close to this range. The Nuggets without Jokic this season, I believe, are 3-6 or 3-8 or 4. They are under 500 without Jokic. The Sixers are over 500 without Embiid. I think they're maybe like 5-3 or 11-5 or 8-5, somewhere in that range. The Bucks are above 500 without Giannis this season, and that's not to say Embiid and Giannis aren't valuable. Obviously, they are. Those are the top 3 MVP guys right now. But Jokic's value to the Nuggets is far more paramount than Embiid's or Giannis's is to their team. And that isn't because Jokic is a better player than either of them. I do think he is better than Embiid, but not Giannis. But it's because of the way the team is built, the system is built, the team is coached. Everything the Nuggets do offensively is 110% Jokic. So, if you think, Zach, Embiid averages more points and plays better defense, it's that simple. Okay. Jaylen Brown's better than LeBron, right? Well, he is he's a better defender, and he averages close to the same amount of points. So he's better than LeBron? No. And I'm a Jaylen Brown guy. I have a Jaylen Brown jersey 10 feet away from me right now in my closet. But the reason you think LeBron is better than Jaylen Brown is because of what he does offensively outside of just scoring points, right? What he provides to his entire team. He is the system. He is the team. He makes everybody around him better. Even though he's not as good a defender as Jaylen Brown. And because he doesn't score light years more points than Jaylen Brown. But what LeBron does to his team is what Jokic does to his offensively. And that is what any argument that you can make for Embiid over Jokic also fits there. But obviously you don't believe that. And the reason that people are adjusting their mindsets to thinking maybe Embiid is the MVP over Jokic, Jokic, who's averaging a triple-double again, but the last time he averaged a triple-double, people said, but he's the 6th seed. You can't give a guy on that low of a seed the MVP just because he averaged a triple-double. Okay, what if he was the 1 seed? And what if he remained the 1 seed for the entire season, like the Nuggets are this season? He is averaging a triple-double on the best team in the West, who has been the best team in the West, beginning to end. And you're about to not give him for the 3rd year in a row. You're about to not give him this year's MVP because you're trying to convince yourself that maybe it's Embiid. So, one more point on that. If you do not take into consideration previous years, if you look at the MVP and say it is a singular season award, singular season and regular season award, and I do not take into consideration the past, you can't say it's not Jokic. Jokic is the best player on the best team in the West, averaging the best numbers. His team is the worst without him than any of the other MVP candidates are. But if you say, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but if you say to yourself, no, I do take into consideration the past. He won it the last 2 years. Embiid came in second the last 2 years. It's Embiid's turn this year. If you think I do take into consideration the past for an MVP award, okay, then you have an argument to say Embiid. That's fine. But if you say, no, I don't take in the past. It's only a singular season award, but it should be Embiid. No. You do consider the past because Jokic has already won 2 in a row, and you think him winning 3 in a row, joining Larry Bird and, a few other guys I can't recall off the top of my head as the only guys to ever win 3 in a row, then that just doesn't work. And me personally, I don't take into consideration past seasons. I look at each MVP season as same with most improved, rookie of the year, coach of the year, executive of the year, everything. I look at it as a singular season in a bubble, regular season award, because that's the way it's supposed to be. Same with all NBA teams. That is the way the awards are made, are built to be. So I don't take into consideration the fact that Jokic won it the last 2 years. Embiid came in second the last 2 years, and so Embiid deserves it. No. Joel Embiid, the Sixers should be the 1 seed right now. Then he deserved it. The Sixers should have been leading the conference beginning to end like the Nuggets have been. Embiid should have better stats all around. There are things Embiid could have controlled and done to put him over Jokic this season as the MVP. And I'm not saying he's far off from it. Joel Embiid's had an incredible season. But people arguing for Embiid to be the MVP this season are purely doing so because he came in second the last 2 years, and they don't want Jokic winning a 3rd in a row. And I understand that. But I'm not taking any of that into consideration. I'm not taking into consideration the fact that this would be Jokic's 3rd in a row. I'm not taking into consideration the fact that Embiid came in second the last 2 years. Why? Because the MVP is a singular season in a bubble award. That's the way it's built to be and made to be. So I don't take into consideration the past. And that is why, right now, in this moment, Nikola Jokic is my MVP. Because I think he deserves it based on what he's done this season. And look, the Western Conference, which the Nuggets have led all season, is one of the craziest conferences I've ever witnessed in the history of my watching the NBA. And if you know me, you know that the NBA, I grew up on the NBA. Before I got into college basketball, college football, the NFL, any of this, it was only the NBA for me. I watched 60 plus games for all 30 teams every season from when I was in, 6th grade, 7th grade, up until pretty much college, where I realized I had to start getting into other sports and expand my, broaden my horizon on that end. But this NBA Western Conference is unbelievable. I mean, who's the favorites right now? Trick question. There is a clear favorite, and nobody wants to accept it for some reason. But, guys, let me take a sip of water before this. Guys, stop over analyzing the NBA Western Conference. When Kevin Durant was traded to the Suns, they became the instant favorites. Since then, he sprained his ankle, and now it's anybody's conference. Guys, stop over analyzing the West. Maybe it's Memphis. Ja's back. Maybe it could be the Lakers if LeBron can get back and they can put it all together. Maybe it can be the Clippers if Russ can find a way to mesh with Kawhi and if PG can stay healthy through the first round and come back in the second round. And if the Kings can continue their regular season momentum and make a miracle run. And no, 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 definitely not, probably not, and absolutely not. No offense to Sacramento. When Durant, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton played together in the short time they did before Durant sprained his ankle and has been out since, they had a 34 net rating, which means they were outscoring teams by 34 points per 100 possessions when the four of them were on the court together. That's dominance. And what? Now it's anybody's conference and it's wide open because Durant sprained his ankle. Oh, wait, hold on.
Because Durant sprained his ankle.
Okay, that was weird. That was not as funny as I thought it was going to be. And I forgot that this thing says the effect as I press it. So that was pretty. Yeah, I know. My sorry. Let's. All right. Okay. Let's get back into things. So I do think the Grizzlies are a sleeper team. Shout out Ja, for coming back, and playing exceptionally well ever since. I'm not counting out the Grizzlies in the slightest bit, and I do think teams like the Warriors and the Lakers and the Clippers are at least dangerous. I'm not counting them completely out, but to say any team but the Suns could be the favorites out of the West right now because Durant sprained his ankle, no, I'm just kidding. Is just I don't understand it. We He was traded to the Suns. They're the favorites. He played a few games with them. They were dominant as hell. He sprained his ankle. It's anybody's conference. No, he'll be back, likely with a few games left to play in the regular season. If not, game one of the playoffs. And the Suns are the favorites, and they should win the conference. And they should meet a team from the East that I'll get to in a second in the finals. And I don't understand why everybody's trying to overanalyze and overcomplicate this Western Conference, which has a ton of parity. And a number of different teams could come out of it. Like I said, the Grizzlies are a sleeper team. I would not be stunned to see them in the finals. I do think the injury to Brandon Clark is one people aren't really talking about, but I do think that could hurt him down the stretch. They need Steven Adams healthy throughout the playoffs to have a chance. But with Ja and with Dylan Brooks and with Desmond Bane and with the team that they built and the culture that they have, I do think that there is a chance this is the year they break through. But I don't see how or why all of a sudden the Suns are, not as dangerous as a team like the Lakers or the Nuggets. And I know I haven't mentioned the Nuggets in talking about teams that could come out of the West. So let me say, yes, they could come out of the West. Let's not forget that Jokic has been further in the playoffs than Joel Embiid ever has. Jokic has made a conference finals. The Nuggets could come out of the West. Would I pick them to over the Suns? No. Would I pick them to over the Grizzlies? No. Would I pick them to over the Lakers, Clippers, Warriors, that group? Probably, but if the Lakers match up with the Nuggets in the first round, come back to me on that. So, and I do want to mention that I don't know obviously what's going on with Andrew Wiggins and the Warriors right now. You don't either. Nobody does. And people are talking a lot about, you know, do we have a right to know? One side, people say Andrew Wiggins is a public worker. He does his job publicly. He's a public figure. And when if I just disappear and don't show up to my job for 3 months, I think people deserve to know why. And then the other side is you don't have a right to know all of his personal business just because you watch him do his job and you are a fan of the job he does. So those are the two sides of it. Now, me personally, I think that if it comes out, and I hope this isn't true, obviously, but let's just say it's the worst and someone close to him has passed or just something along those lines, then at that point, you're going to feel like, oh, okay, no, I understand. I probably shouldn't have been so harsh on wanting him to, come out and just tell it. Like, and because that's true, I don't think he has to say any. Clearly, this isn't a Kyrie Irving or a Russell West. This isn't a guy that just naturally, goes out of his way to kind of make, you know, waves in, amongst fans and organizations. I mean, Andrew Wiggins is the furthest from a guy like Kyrie. So if he's, went MIA from the team to deal with personal, things, I have no reason not to believe it isn't for a good reason. Now, on the basketball side of it, I don't think the Warriors have a chance to come out of the West without him. They need him. Now, the flip side of that is that I think they do have a chance to come out of the West with him because Steph Curry is still Steph Curry. Klay Thompson he's back to Klay Thompson. Draymond's been playing better lately, and when the playoffs come around, obviously, he steps up his game. Kuminga's been playing much, much better lately. Jordan Poole is Jordan Poole. So I do think if Andrew Wiggins can come back and be that defensive anchor for them alongside Draymond, because what Wiggins does for the team is he guards the other team's best wing player, best ball handler, which allows Draymond to be where he's at his best. And that's roving around the court, playing in passing lanes, double teaming, rebounding, drawing foul. When Andrew Wiggins isn't there, Draymond has to step into that role as the primary, defender on the team's best player, which takes him out of that help role, which, it affects this team defensively a ton. So basically what I'm trying to say is that with Andrew Wiggins, don't count out the Warriors. Without him, I think they're frisky. I think they could scare the hell out of a whole lot of teams, but I can't see him coming out of the West without Andrew Wiggins. That's how important I think he is to this team, and we saw that in the finals last year. So real quick, let's talk about a couple teams in the Western Conference that I've talked about in previous episodes. I said when the Lakers made their trade deadline moves and they brought in D'Angelo Russell and Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley and Rui Hachimura and Mo Bamba and pretty much changed their entire roster. I told you guys the Lakers are going to make the playoffs. It might be the play-in, and they might have to win their first game to get into the playoffs, or they might move all the way up to the 6th seed. But I guaranteed that they were going to make the playoffs. And guys, as we sit here today, a few weeks later, they are the 8th seed. And they are 1 game out of the 6th seed. And they are 1.5 games out of the 5 seed. And the teams above them are the Zion-less Pelicans and the Paul George-less Clippers. And the Lakers are about to get LeBron back. Or, well, really have got LeBron back. But, LeBron's he's getting close to fully being ramped up and back in. The Lakers are dangerous. I told you when they made the trade deadline moves, and I had people telling me the Lakers aren't dangerous. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're dead in what? No, they got so much better. They have a full, complete team. Before the trade deadline, back when they had Russ and Patrick Beverly, they were dead. Absolutely dead. No chance of doing anything at all. Probably weren't going to make the playoffs. But they saw that, changed their entire team, brought in D'Angelo Russell, and now they're dangerous. And they are going to make the playoffs. I could have told you that a month ago. I did tell you that a month ago, and now it's coming to fruition. And that's not because I cogently analyzed the team and saw who they were playing in the future and saw how they played before and how Malik Beasley would fit in with Jared Vander. No, they got better players. They traded out worse players and they brought in better players. And they brought in players that can shoot and that can defend. And those were the things the team was lacking with their old roster. And that is why they're better, and that is why they're going to make the playoffs. Having LeBron and Anthony Davis also helps. But like the Lakers, yeah, I mean, right now, the way it is, the Lakers would be playing the Nuggets in the first round. They move up to the 7th seed. They're going to play the Grizzlies in the first round. I think the Grizzlies would beat them, but I think they'd be an incredible series. If they move up to the 6th seed, oh, God, poor Kings fans. Can you imagine the Kings having had the season they've had and their reward for it? What they get as a reward for the season they've had is LeBron and Anthony Davis in the first round. Oh God, that'd be hilarious. And I'm looking all the way. Where the hell are the Dallas Mavericks? Look, I'm not wrong often, but when I am, as a man of integrity, I I feel it is my duty to admit it. And as far as the Dallas Mavericks are concerned, I was wrong about Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. I thought it was an awful, awful trade. Just a terrible, terrible decision by the franchise that would plague them in the future, in the off season. Well, I thought far too highly of the trade. And I thought far too highly of the Dallas Mavericks. Because what they are now, what that trade was, is an abject, undebatable, indisputable failure. Failure of a team, failure of an organization, failure of a trade, disaster. Since trading for Kyrie, they are 4-10 in games that Kyrie and Luka have played together. That is the worst record by teammates who have both made the All-Star game in that season, in a singular season, since the NBA and ABA merged. And, I mean, they're dead. They're dead. They killed themselves by making that move. And it isn't just because they brought in Kyrie. Obviously, that was a horrible decision and it's a failure. But it's also because of what they gave up. And I had people telling me, boo-hoo, you're crying about trading Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie. Yeah, I am. Dorian Finney-Smith was this team's best defender. He was to this team, what Andrew Wiggins is to the Warriors. Not that Andrew Wiggins is a better defender than Draymond, but what I explained before as far as guarding the other team's best player. He is Dorian Finney-Smith. Everybody made such a huge deal about Mikal Bridges being away from the Suns. How can you traded Mikal Bridges? That's a huge loss. He was the defensive anchor of this team on the wing. He helped protect Devin Booker and Chris Paul. That's exactly what Dorian Finney-Smith did for Luka Doncic and the Mavs. And now he's gone, so you lose that defensive presence. And then you bring in Kyrie, who's kicking fans out once a game, who... I don't know how anybody could have thought that this was a good move. What I said at the time was you traded Dorian Finney-Smith, a great young defender who can shoot the ball and works well with Luka. And Luka loves playing with him on a good contract, who would have been signed next year already. You traded Spencer Dinwiddie, another guy that we know works with Luka well enough for them to be dangerous in the playoffs, and is also on a good contract that he would have been on the contract next season on an expiring deal. You could have moved him. And a first and a second, I believe it was, or at the least 2 seconds, for 3 months of Kyrie Irving. But I may have been wrong. It looks like it's only going to be 2 months. Because it looks like they're not even going to make the play-in. The play-in. A Luka Doncic-led team is going to miss the play-in. That should never happen for the rest of his career. But you nuked the team by making a trade you thought was necessary to keep Luka happy, when at the end of the day, all it did was hinder Luka's career by adding a season in there where he will not make the playoffs. So right now, the Mavs are 37. They were the 6th seed before making the trade. Now they're the 11th seed. They're 37-41. They're behind the Thunder. They're 1 game behind the Thunder, a full game. Without the tiebreaker, by the way. The Thunder have the tiebreaker over the Mavs. They are 2 full games out of the 9 seed and 2.5 games out of the 8 seed. So is it possible for them to make the playoffs? No. Is it possible for them to make the play-in? Absolutely. Do I think they will? I don't have any reason to. Not based on what I've seen so far with the Luka and Kyrie experiment. So here's what's going to happen. They are either going to lose Kyrie for nothing in the offseason, and this will have been, like I and I'm sure many others could have obviously predicted, a failure of a move. Or they're going to sign him in the offseason not because they want to, not because they think he's great with Luka, not because they love what he's doing for the team, but because they look around and say, oh my God, we cannot lose Kyrie for nothing. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Do you know how embarrassing it is to lose Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and all those picks we gave up just for Kyrie to walk after making us miss the playoffs? Oh God, we can't. That's why they would sign him, and that's just destined for failure right there. So, look, the point is, the Mavs gotta have a good offseason, because their season's over. Their season ended, I think it was February 9th when they made that trade. That's the day their season ended. Now this offseason, and I like Luka a lot. I am a Luka guy. I like Jason Kidd a lot. I like Christian Wood more than most. I like Maxi Kleber. And I like Dwight Powell, and I think that they have I like Josh Green. I think they have an interesting team. But they made a bad decision, and now this offseason is about remedying that. And it'll be interesting to see what they do and how they do it, because the NBA is a better place when Luka Doncic is in the playoffs. It's that simple. So, now let's move over to the Eastern Conference. This is very different from the West, because in the East, it's pretty much a 3-man race. It's the Bucks, Celtics, and Sixers. But I think it's actually more of a 2-man race. I think the Bucks and the Celtics are locked in to being the Eastern Conference Finals. I think whichever team ends up as the 1 seed is going to cruise, and I think the 2 seed is going to play Philly in the semifinals, and I think they're going to beat them, whether it's the Celtics or the Bucks. And I think a Bucks-Celtics Eastern Conference Finals is pretty much locked. Now, who am I picking? Oh, you will find out in a future episode. But I think that is pretty much a lock. And as far as Philly goes, I don't see how you could possibly trust them more than the Bucks or the Celtics. Because you have to pick 2 of the 3 teams to make the Eastern Conference Finals. 1 team won't. And you look at pedigree. The Bucks won the championship, 2 years ago. The Celtics were just in the finals last year, and they added Malcolm Brogdon. Derek White is playing incredibly well this season. Joe Mazzulla is coaching the hell out of these guys. Mazzulla ball is so much fun to watch, by the way. So both of these teams, the Bucks and the Celtics, have recent championship pedigree. Celtics didn't win it, but they got there. The Sixers' playoff pedigree is Doc Rivers, who's blown the most 3-1 leads ever. James Harden, who I don't even need to go into his playoff pedigree. and Joel Embiid, who's never made a conference finals. And you trust that team more than the Bucks, who won it all 2 years ago and got better since then, and the Celtics, who were in the finals last year and got better since then. Not to mention the Bucks and Celtics both have better records than the Sixers right now. And you mean to tell me you trust Philly more than either of those two teams right now? I don't see how. I do not see how one could logically get themselves to think that. So that's where I mean, and I love the Cavs, love Donovan Mitchell. Um, I would be scared as hell to play them in the playoffs. I'd be scared to play the Heat only because of Jimmy Butler and how much I love Jimmy Butler and respect him. Like there are teams in the East who are kind of interesting. I mean, the Knicks aren't, the Nets aren't, the Hawks aren't, but there are teams that are. But at the end of the day, I don't see how, gun to your head, you could say anything other than, yeah, Bucks Celtics Eastern Conference Finals. So, San Diego State. Our San Diego State is going to the national championship playing my UConn Huskies. I did live in Connecticut for 10 years. So I did grow, and I'm not making this up, I did grow up a Huskies fan. I'm not claiming them now. I'm just saying I grew up a Huskies fan. I would have went to UConn if I didn't end up moving to Florida in middle school. Um, so I did live a decade in Connecticut, and so I am very, very happy to see, UConn having success, of course. Uh, that game winner last night was, oh my god! I mean, that's the type of shot that you're in the driveway as a kid dreaming about. Thinking in your head, three, two, one, that fadeaway Jordan jumper, midi for game in the Final Four. I mean, in Houston, in front of all those fans. I mean, that's the type of shot that you dream about in the driveway. So, I mean, I can't help but feel happy for the kid and for the team. And yeah, it sucks for FAU, but yeah, I mean, I'm not a moral wins type of guy. I'm not going to say valiant effort, FAU should be proud. I mean, they should, and it was, but that's not really the type of guy I am. I mean, San Diego State and UConn, national championship. UConn's going to blow them out by 20. I don't think San Diego State can play with UConn at all. I think this is going to be one of the lowest rated finals ever, meaning I don't think a ton of people are going to be like itching to watch it. Obviously, you have all your UConn people that are, all your San Diego State, all 11 San Diego State people in the world that are. But I mean, I think UConn's going to, I'm going to watch it. I think UConn's going to get out ahead early though. I mean, as we saw last night though, San Diego State is capable of getting back into games they're down, but UConn's not FAU. UConn is, we saw what they did to Gonzaga. UConn's margin of victory in the tournament going into last night was 22, highest by far of any Final Four team. And Miami was a really good team, better than FAU, and UConn easily took care of them. So I think UConn's going to blow them out by 20. I'll be very happy about that. I mean, look, I'm not a Husky, but little piece of my heart will always root for their success. So and my bracket, by the way, uh, actually, yeah, no, I'm not gonna. We don't need to get into that. But whose bracket? I guess if there was any year to have an embarrassingly bad bracket, it was this year, right? I mean, nobody had. I think what I saw it on Instagram. 6 people in the world had brackets with the perfect Final Four. I think I saw that somewhere. But it's just, yeah. If there was any year to have a garbage bracket, it was this year. All right. So now let's get into a little bit of pop culture stuff. Movies, TV, stuff I'm actually really excited to talk about. It's Mario week. Seeing the Super Mario Brothers movie Thursday. Oh my god, I'm excited. Don't want to start with that though. What I want to start with is some troubling news. I'm gonna be careful the way I word this. Jonathan Majors has reportedly been accused of some things that would pretty much end his acting career, I'd think, if, he does end up getting charged with these accusations. I don't really know the exact terminology of this stuff, so, take what I say for however you want it. And I don't know anything about it. All I'm gonna say is that I hope to God it isn't true, because you guys know how I feel about Jonathan Majors as an actor. I think he is one of the most talented actors in the world, and I am so looking forward to the future of the MCU with him in it. I thought he was incredible in Creed 3. Um, so I'm pretty much just mentioning that so that, you know, it's not kind of just like awkwardly bubbling around, and that I mention it because it would feel weird to not mention it. So I'm just going to wait and, see what happens with the rest of you guys. If you don't know about it, just look up Jonathan Majors accusation. You'll see what I'm talking about. But I hope it isn't true, because he is the future of the MCU, and you know how I feel about the MCU. Um, Last week, oh god, no, not last week, a few weeks ago, I went and I saw Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and I'm going to look up my tweet about it that I tweeted, my initial out of theater reaction. Um, Oh, and if you guys do, by the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter, my personal account, it's my name is Zachary Weiss, ZACKARYWEISS _ and that's pretty much where I tweet all, out of theater reactions to movies, NBA and NFL thoughts, all my video and thoughts from Gator football practice. I'm going to the spring camp practices right now. Um, so I'm trying to find my tweet about Shazam. But basically, my overall thoughts on it is I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. I don't understand people hating on it because it isn't, Endgame or Infinity War or, one of those like legendary movies. I had a really, really good time with it. And if I can't find it here, then I will just accept it. Got so many DeAndre Hopkins tweets. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I cannot find it. That's unfortunate. But basically, what I said after the movie was that Shazam is a good time. It's a fun movie. It's not going to knock your socks off. It's not a legendary film, but it's. Oh, sign turned off. That means we've hit an hour, which means I am going to wrap this up very soon. Let's see if I can get this back on. No, I cannot. There we go. All right. If you are not watching on YouTube, then nothing embarrassing just happened at all, in the slightest bit. So anyway, yeah, and people hating on, I think people aren't seeing Shazam and are hating on Shazam because it isn't a historically great movie. But guys, not every movie is Endgame or Infinity War or Civil War or The Dark Knight Rises or The Batman or Joker. Not every movie is going to be a top 5 to 10 superhero movie ever. Some movies are bad, yes. Some movies are great, yes. And some movies are good. And what's happening nowadays is with every show, every movie, every superhero related project that comes out, everything from Shazam to Miss Marvel to She-Hulk. Oh, She-Hulk sucked, but everything from movies to TV. If it isn't incredible, people just say, oh, why are they just spitting out this garbage? All these movies suck. None of them are as good as Endgame. What else? What is as good as Infinity War and Endgame and Dark Knight Rises and all those great top echelon movies? It's okay for a movie to be a fun, good time. And Shazam was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And that's fine. And I think what's going to be a really, really good test as to if this superhero movie fatigue is really, the cause for all of this is Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which comes out. Tickets go on sale Monday. So I will be getting my tickets for opening night and I will be reviewing it here. If the public reaction to Guardians is like it has been for all of the other stuff coming out recently, then that means it's just superhero movie fatigue. People are just getting tired of too much stuff and aren't actually, analyzing the movies for whether they are good or not. They are simply deciding, too many. I'm bored of it. Whatever. Now, Guardians is going to be great. At least if it's not, I'll say it's not. But I have a very difficult time believing it's not going to be a great movie. So we'll see how people react to that. I think people are going to love it. I hope so. But when it came to Shazam, that kind of bothered me because I went in expecting it to be awful because that's what the world made me think. The social media made me go in expecting bad things because everybody was saying bad things about it. And after watching it and after realizing that, wait, that was not a bad movie. That wasn't great, but it was fun and it was funny and the action looked cool and Zachary Levi killed it. That people were just tired of the sheer volume of superhero stuff coming out lately. And if that's you, that's fine. But don't lie and say that good movies suck because of it. Because that's just not true. And we'll see what the public reaction to Guardians is. I'm very interested to seeing that. As far as TV shows go, I finished You season 4. Greatness. Now, I will say, it is one of the most intense, emotionally intense seasons of television I've ever seen. Not just and it's different because it's not just because it's like gory and violent like some of these other, like The Walking Dead or like Game of Thrones. It's more like Breaking Bad, where it's just so intense that it like squeezes your stomach and your heart and just like you're laying in bed watching it and you just feel like icky because of how intense and just effed up it is. But that is not a bad thing. That means that it is a brilliantly written, brilliantly acted show. And anybody that isn't, faint of heart, anybody that can handle, that is mentally strong enough to handle intense shows, like if you've seen Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead or Daredevil season 3, like if you can handle TVMA, watch You. Make it to season 4, then watch season 4 because my God, is it good. I finished Andor. I'm gonna tweet about it sometime tonight. I finished it and I just fell asleep after and never ended up getting around to tweeting a little review of it. But Andor was awesome. It wasn't the greatest show I've ever seen in my life. It didn't blow me out of the water and make me think like this is by far the greatest Star Wars project ever. But I thought it was like in line with Mandalorian. Like I loved Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I thought Andor was the same thing. I mean, the guy who plays Cassian is great. Everybody in the show does very well. The storyline's awesome. The best episodes were the ones in the prison. The prison escape episode 10, best episode of the show, one of the best pieces of Star Wars media ever. But yeah, those episodes were A+, so good. The show did it got a little bit slow at times because it broke up the 12 episodes into like 3 episode arcs, which just inherently means some episodes here and there are going to be kind of like filler episodes, just to like build tension and pass along the story, which is fine. That's not a bad thing. That's just inherently how it's going to be. But those, episode 3, episode 6, episode 10, episode 12, I mean, they hit the spot exactly how you'd want them to. And Andor lived up to the hype. I thought it was fantastic, and I'm excited for season 2. And speaking of future seasons of Star Wars shows, what that means now that I finished You and I finished Andor is what's next. Mandalorian season 3 I am going to work on catching up on that, and then I'm going to watch the weekly episodes once I do. And at the same time, I'm going to be simultaneously watching a show called Barry with Bill Hader. So good in It Chapter 2, by the way, which is better than It Chapter 1. Unpopular opinion, throwing that out there. But anyway, Bill Hader, show called Barry. Let me know if you've seen it. Do you have any thoughts about it? I've had it recommended to me by some of my, best friends that I talk TV with. So I'm definitely going to give it a shot. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to catch up on Mando. And then once I do, I'm going to simultaneously binge Barry and, watch the weekly episodes of The Mandalorian. So that's what's up next on TV for me. If you have any thoughts on You Season 4 or Andor or Barry or Mandalorian or Shazam or superhero movies as a whole or anything like that, let me know, comment, message me. I'm always down to talk movies and TV. And for this week, mentioned it earlier, I'm seeing Mario Thursday. My most anticipated movie of the year, Super Mario Brothers movie. No, I'm not kidding. I grew up on the Mario games. I mean, I played Super Mario 64 on my 3DSi XL. Actually, it was just a DSi XL. Super Mario Sunshine on the GameCube. I mean, Mario Party 7. Obviously the Super Mario Bros. I grew up on the Mario games, and I am just beyond excited for Thursday. I already have my outfit ready. And yes, I know this is like peak Zach Weiss nerd. But that's just how it is. Sorry, that's who I am. God, I am excited. So that's going to be Thursday. And as far as the next episode goes, we are going to get deep into the NFL draft. I have thoughts about Bryce Young and CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Will Levis and how those guys rank and where they should go and who should maybe trade up for one of them, who should maybe trade down, and how far those guys are going to slide. So we're going to talk NFL draft next time. I'm going to talk some Mario. No, I'm not going to do a whole hour review of it like I do for the MCU and like I will do for DCU movies, like for Guardians. But I'm going to talk about Mario a little bit, give a few thoughts. We're going to talk some Florida football. If I don't know if you know, I cover the team. I'm a member of the media. I go to pretty much every spring camp practice. I've been hearing some inside people there that I've been talking to about some guys. And I've been seeing some guys who have just stood out like crazy. So I'm going to give you all my thoughts on Florida football and how I think this team could be this season based on what I've seen in spring camp. And again, if you want to see videos and pictures and thoughts and pretty much everything from my coverage of the team in spring camp, head over to my Twitter. So we're going to talk some of that. And then soon after, when the NBA season comes to an end in a few weeks here, I am going to have my official end of regular season NBA episode. I'm going to give you my MVP pick, my coach of the year, my defensive player of the year, my most improved, my executive of the year, my all NBA teams, my playoff predictions, top to bottom. We're going to talk everything NBA end of season awards predictions. That's going to be one whole episode coming up soon here in a few weeks. But yeah, that's what we got. Obviously, the Lamar saga, the Aaron Rodgers saga is going to continue, I'm sure. There's going to be some interesting things coming out there. The Mavs are going to continue to struggle. The Lakers are going to continue to improve. I mean, it's a nice time to have a podcast and to be covering pop culture and sports because there is a lot to talk about. So that's it for today for episode 6. Let's see, there we go. First episode back in a little while. It's good to be back. This went a little, that sign, I have a sign here if you're listening on Spotify and it says Word of the Weiss on it and it's LED and it turns off after an hour. And I think it turned off about 20 minutes ago. So this might end up being an hour and a half podcast, which was not the plan. But there was just so much to talk about. I tried to move quickly through it. But I'll be back sooner than in a few weeks. Episode 7 should come this weekend and it won't be as long because obviously it won't be weeks and weeks of things to cover. So thank you for listening or watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe, follow my personals and the Word of the Weiss podcast, Twitter and Facebook. And as always, guys, thank you. Until next time, Word of the Weiss.